Act 4. The surprising victory of Jesus. He is the God made manifest, the universal savior of human life. These words referring to Caesar Augustus, found in a Roman inscription from 4 BC in Ephesus, proclaim the gospel of the Roman Empire. This version of the good news announces that Caesar is the Lord who brings peace and prosperity to the world. Into his empire, a son of David is born, and he announces the gospel of God's kingdom. Jesus of Nazareth brings the good news of the coming of God's reign. He begins to show what God's new creation looks like. He announces the end of Israel's exile and the forgiveness of sins. He heals the sick and raises the dead. He overcomes the dark spiritual powers. He welcomes sinners and those considered unclean. Jesus renews the nations, rebuilding the 12 tribes of Israel around himself in a symbolic way. But the established religious leaders are threatened by Jesus and his kingdom, so they have him brought before the Roman governor during the very week that the Jews were remembering and celebrating Passover, God's ancient rescue of his people from slavery in Egypt. The Romans nailed Jesus to a cross and killed him as a false king. But the Bible claims that this defeat is actually God's greatest victory. How? Jesus willingly gives up his life as a sacrifice on behalf of the nation, on behalf of the world. Jesus takes on himself the full force of evil and empties it of its power. In this surprising way, Jesus fights and wins Israel's ultimate battle. The real enemy was never Rome, but the spiritual powers that lies behind Rome and every other kingdom whose weapon is death. Through this blood, Jesus pays the price and reconciles everything in heaven and on earth to God. God then publicly declares this victory by reversing Jesus' death sentence and raising him back to life. The resurrection of Israel's king shows that the great enemies of God's creation, sin and death, really have been defeated. The resurrection is the great sign that the new creation has begun. Jesus is the fulfillment of Israel's story, a new start for the entire human race. Death came through the first man, Adam. The resurrection of the dead comes through the new man, Jesus. God's original intention is being reclaimed.